Hello everyone, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. Thank you so much for your time. As the territory of the Virgin Islands move forward with sustainable development projects within the territory, we are being the lead here in the territory as it pertains to the Eastern Caribbean Overseas Territories Roadmap for Improving Access to Development and Finance. Of course, I'm joined by two experts within the field. They are Mr. Simon Springett, the UN Regional Coordinator, along with Mr. Pemberton, Policy Analyst within the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Sustainable Development here in the territory, to bring awareness, of course, and to put into perspective why this roadmap document is important to our development. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
Attention Anegada residents! Attention Anegada residents! CCT is coming to you! That's right! CCT will be visiting Anegada every third Wednesday of the month. Need to pay your bill? Sign up for a new service? Or have a customer service concern? CCT has got you covered. No need to leave the island. CCT is here to make staying connected easier than ever. Mark your calendars for every third Wednesday starting October 16th and visit us for all your CCT service needs. For more information, call us at 444-4444 or follow us on any of our social media pages. See you soon, Anegada.
So, you're a wizard, you drive a horse, and you're uninsured? I'm covered with CG.
Kalazoo!
Comprehensive motor cover for all kinds of damage.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you all so much for sticking with us. As promised, we are discussing all things, gentlemen, the Eastern Caribbean Overseas Territories Roadmap for Improving Access to Development Finance. Mr. Pemberton and Mr. Springett, thank you for your time and welcome to our platform.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Ron.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, this is a heavy topic, one that has been essentially plaguing not only the Virgin Islands, but other overseas territories within the region. And of course, as mentioned, the BVI is taking the lead on preparing and presenting essentially to stakeholders why our development finance is so important. Mr. Pemberton, I want to begin with you as policy analyst within the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Sustainable Development. I want you to put this into perspective for us and provide some background.
Okay, sure thing. I'll provide some context for you and for everyone. And thank you for having us again. So the BVI, in a global aspect, when we look at our vulnerabilities, especially to storms and development on a whole, there are means of financing that we're actually having challenges getting access to. There's funding opportunities all over the world through partners, international organizations. However, the BVI doesn't qualify for many different reasons, or a few reasons, mainly our GDP. So if you can remember, during our 2017 storms,
yes,
trying to get access to development funding or some kind of help, we had issues because they say, our GDP is too high and we can't qualify for funding. And then there's other opportunities. The BVI, the region, the world is developing at a massive rate right now. And there's funding available to help, especially small islands and SIDS, to develop. And the BVI and other OTs are always being run into a roadblock, which is our status, our GDP. So we also have opportunities through the UN to provide some opportunities for us.
Understood. And Mr. Springett, I want to break it down for us. Of course, you are the UN Regional Coordinator, assisting and leading in this initiative. I want you to speak about the actual contents of this roadmap and the aim of it to really bring home the point that not only the BVI, but other OTs are deserving and in need of development finance.
Thank you very much, Ron, and again, thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I think, as was just stated, there is actually a lot of finance globally in the world. There's a lot of liquidity, but one of the biggest problems in overseas territories in particular is access to that financing. There's a lot of rules and regulations that, for a variety of reasons, preclude the Virgin Islands and others from getting that. Whether this be concessional financing from regional or international banks, or whether it be UN or interrelated, what we call vertical financing for climate. So what we are trying to do with this roadmap is continue to develop an evidence base to show why it's important to give financing. I mean, quite frankly, regardless of where an individual lives, they're still at risk, significant risk of climate impacts. So one of the things we're looking at is trying to bring that evidence base together and develop an advocacy strategy. And how can we bring, because not everyone understands that this is a problem, because not everyone understands the peculiarity of overseas territories. So there's a large conference that's happening in Spain called the Financing for Development Conference that we hope to collectively attend and really work with policymakers, work with banks, work with governments, really trying to find solutions to this. And there's other opportunities such as the Conference of Parties that's going to be held on climate change in Brazil later in the year. I know that this is an issue that many in government have grappled with for a very long time. And it really shows how intractable this issue is. But we're really trying to put a huge emphasis behind this and really continue pushing the awareness. And we do hope that we'll find at least some small breakthroughs.
Understood. Now, Mr. Pemberton, I want to put this into a larger perspective for the general public. We, of course, have in the territory been developing a national sustainable development plan. I want to speak to how the development financing would truly assist us in moving forward with a number of projects that are in that sustainable development plan, ranging from education to healthcare as well as infrastructure.
Great. That's a great question. I love how you tie that in. Basically, the National Sustainable Development Plan is that roadmap for the BVI and our development. And it happens incrementally, meaning we have to then figure out, okay, after we take this big plan with all of these ideas and initiatives, how can we implement them, whether it's 3 years, medium term focused, or even each year. And when it comes to our development, everything's become urgent, of course. And then there's going to be so many projects that need support, and there's very limited funding that can come out and happen at a time. And when we get to the budget cycle, we know that it has to be necessary cuts, really prioritizing what we need. But with our NSDP now, we can say we have a number of projects that we would like to have supported. And then we can go out to these international agencies and organizations with the ability to say, hey, we have access and we have the evidence and we have the plan to say this is where we need the priorities, and you can see exactly how these funds will benefit the BVI.
Understood. Now, throughout this week, you guys have been having a number of meetings, and I want to put that into perspective. This essentially is the overarching launch of the roadmap. But tell us about the meetings. Who have you been meeting with? And most importantly, as we transition, what will the implementation plan look like?
Great. Before I pass it over to Mr. Springett, I will say that there are many UN agencies that work with different ministries, and one of the benefits that this roadmap does as well, it brings a level of coordination, because there may be some duplication of efforts, or even the not intentional but misinclusion of a ministry that may have a particular interest. So we know that some topics don't just relate to one ministry, there may be others. And unintentionally, someone may be left out. So this brings a lot of coordination. We've had meetings with up to 10 different UN agencies. They all haven't been here, they were all virtual. But thankfully, we have Mr. Springett, who took the time to come and be here with us today. And I'll let him continue to explain.
Please do.
Thank you. And I think raising the National Sustainable Development Plan is really critical. So the second meeting we had this morning was to review something we call our country implementation plan. And essentially the United Nations country implementation plan is the UN agencies, funds and programs, of which there was 10 in this meeting today, their pledge to implement various portions of the National Sustainable Development Plan. So the meeting was to sit down and to review the progress about what they had hoped to achieve. And this meeting was chaired by Premier Wheatley, and it was attended by the Sustainable Development Goals National Steering Committee. So this steering committee is what is pulled together to ensure that through me coordinating the United Nations agencies in the Eastern Caribbean and through the government, that we're all on the same page. We have the right ministries there. it's not always easy to coordinate virtually, and for me it was a real honor to come and sit next to Premier Wheatley to chair that meeting. Now the next step is to design the UN agency's programs for 2025, making sure, of course, it aligns directly with the National Sustainable Development Plan, because in the United Nations, the way we work is we have detailed discussions with government, and their priorities become our priorities.
Understood. Now, I want to talk about UN collaboration, because this is extremely vital that not only the BVI is leading this cause, but we have the immense support of the United Nations. I want to speak, Mr. Pemberton, to why the BVI felt the need to be the lead in this. Of course, you mentioned the hurricanes of 2017, but this is not an issue that is single to just the BVI. A number of other overseas territories face it as well. Why is it important for us to lead such a charge?
Well, it's because of timing. And I'll start with that because we do have our special envoy, Benito Whitley, who is aggressively attending all of these international meetings. And right now, the BVI is vice chair to some of these organizations, particularly ECLAC, and also there's a next one in the Caribbean. The BVI is right now at the seat. So when there's a timing for our voice to be heard, we have to make the push and we have to make that effort.
Understood. Gentlemen, before we exit, I just want to talk about one thing before we leave. Two things, rather. Upon the completion of this document, what would be the next steps?
Well, at the moment, we have the action plan has, I'm guessing, I don't have it in front of me, roughly around 20 discrete actions that we hope to implement together with government. Some of these can be done directly by government, some of them can be done in collaboration between government and the UN, and some of them, of course, will require different types of partnerships. So our collective job now is to bring the partners back together again and to try to allocate the work and make sure that we do it in the most efficient and hopefully the fastest way possible. And then once much of this work is done, it will feed into what I was mentioning previously, a really robust advocacy strategy that we can take out into the world and really try to generate resources for the sustainable development of the Virgin Islands.
All right, and Mr. Pemberton, what would you like the general public to understand about the advocacy that's taking place essentially for the betterment of the territory? What does the average citizen needs to understand about the roadmap for improving access to developing finance?
Very, very quickly, one thing I would say is that community is important, understanding that the BVI is getting help from the region, from international organizations, and that our development in real terms is challenging to get the funding and access that we need. And we all need to raise our voice together so that we can continue to have our territory and also other OTs have access to these development financing funds internationally. So yes, there are issues that we want to look at locally, but we can then start to broaden our views and understand how can we achieve the things that we want to, and that yes, there are other means of acquiring financing and funding.
And just to add there, I think everything that the strategy is built around might seem a bit abstract and large, but ultimately the strategies are designed to have immediate effects on families and communities. It's not simply looking for finance for the sake of finance. It's really based on strengthening communities and families.
Understood. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for your time, and most importantly, you have quite a hefty task on your hand. So congratulations on the detailed document that you have been presenting. Of course, UN Coordinator Mr. Springett for leading this charge, and Mr. Pemberton, on behalf of yourself from the ministry, thank you for your dedication to the service of our territory.
Sure. Thank you, Ron.
You're most welcome. Viewers, that's all the time we have. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Goodbye.